Growing up, I would see "Don't mess with Texas" signs all over the place. Billboards, magazine ads, television commercials, you name it. To me, it meant that our natural resources are special and worth preserving. IDAs provide a unique opportunity to incentivize good stewardship of our natural resources because they deal with businesses that have essentially been given a license to pollute. Although these businesses produce goods that are important to the economy, they also consume resources and generate waste in a way that can have negative effects on our community. This is where IDAs could be really useful. I don't think we should be incentivizing industry growth flat out. Instead, the agreement could target growth in areas that align with the community's values, like cleaner air or more efficient water use. The current agreement gives a 100% abatement to all spending on pollution control devices, whether it's a bare minimum or an upgrade. To me, that doesn't make sense. We should be giving abatements only to companies that use the best available technology, not the ones that do the bare minimum. Also, we could set the abatements to decrease as the region's air quality decreases. This could save us a lot of money because exceeding national air quality standards would put us into non-attainment, and that could cost the entire region over $1.7 billion a year. Staying in attainment would save us money, and it would ensure that our air is still okay to breathe. Unfortunately, suggestions like these were not able to be made during the city's negotiations with IDA businesses because there was no public input opportunity while they were taking place. Residents don't need access to sensitive financial information, we just need a seat at the table. Additionally, the costs and benefits of this agreement have not been clearly explained, specifically when it comes to looking at the alternatives like annexation or different pilot scenarios. For example, the current agreement gives 100% abatement to improvements for the first 4 years of their use. That means by the time that they are taxed, the value will be much less than initially was. How much money are we leaving on the table here? Residents deserve to know. During the negotiation process, the city should have provided transparent and extensive communication and consultation with community stakeholders. It should have included information on the size of the abatements and how they would affect the city's budget. Since that didn't happen, I request that you hold off on signing this agreement until city staff can provide a detailed estimate of how each scenario would affect the city's budget. Also, the term length should be reduced to the minimum amount of years. That way, a new IDA with input from community stakeholders can be negotiated. Thank you.
I come this afternoon to ask you to vote no or table the IDA agreements. Points that were made by Mr. Weber, Mr. Hale, and Mr. Meltzer, I echo, but I'm going to go from another tactic, from an EJ issue. You have provided the opportunity for these individuals to pollute my neighborhood and the neighborhoods along Upper Road, Hillcrest, and Toloso and Donald Park. You have condoned and have provided them the opportunity to do what they want to inside of their plants without any environmental impact for me and my surrounding neighbors. The EJ issue that I take and will present again if you go forward with this because you are condoning the health-wise. The lady came in last, we tell you about the height and the benzene levels. You had doctors talking about pediatricians about the human impact that is happening with the pollution that is happening in this city. And you guys are letting it happen because you guys want 33% more of money to help you along your way. But what about the impact that it have on people who are breathing and living in this community? Again, I'm surviving stage 4. Just think about the kids that are coming up that are going to be impacted because you have no environmental impact on these individuals that are, and you're letting them kill people by putting benzene and whatever pollution inside the air. You're doing that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
I would like to give all the city employees a big shout out for keeping our city running. Some of these people we see in the public, but many of them work tirelessly behind the scenes. It appears the that other public commenters and myself are wasting our time, saying that a council member asked staff an excellent question last week that the staff could not or would not answer. That was, how much money would the city get if the city council chose the IDA annex option? At the very least, this vote should be postponed until that question is answered. Regarding fairness, the city is asking IDAs to pay 74.5% on improvements, while city residents must pay property tax on 100% of their property improvements. Why are IDAs not taxed at 100%? A 19% increase in payment in lieu of taxes over 15 years is what is proposed. This is just over 1% a year for 15 years. Let's compare that to residential property taxes. Our properties are appraised every year. Even including a 10% cap on homesteaded properties, residential property taxes could increase at that rate for the next 15 years. 10% times 15 years equals 150%. If you add compounding, you get 318%. Compare that to 19%. Between 2009 and 2023, which is 15 years, the median home price in Corpus Christi metro area went up from $138,704 to $285,000. This is a 105% increase. Compare this to 19%. I could only dream of my property taxes being raised by 19% in total for the next 15 years. This doesn't even include the millions of dollars in lost sales tax and franchise fees on electricity sold. The city staff projected the 19% increase in pilot payments to raise revenues by $120 million in 15 years. This amount would be negative in real terms if you account for inflation. Typical inflation is 3% a year, which compounded would be 56% over 15 years. We all know taxes must be fair. Who thinks this is fair? Raise your hand, please. As always, have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Yeah, I came today to speak against the industrial tax abatements again as well. I really think that probably most average residents and people probably don't have a lot of information or know exactly how that works, what the annual, what's coming into the city, what we could be getting from these billion-dollar companies that aren't residents, that are just working regular salary jobs, that are companies making huge amounts of money all around the world. But yeah, and also these decisions are being made like on a Tuesday. I'm not surprised that there's not more people here speaking against it because everyone's probably at work. It's the day after Labor Day. I mean, I'm lucky that I'm able to be here. And yeah, these are the same companies that got like PPP loans, more corporate handouts that all got forgiven. And then inflation's blamed on like $1,000 stimulus checks when these companies got millions of PPP loans that were just forgiven. And it's the same thing with the desalination plant. Like we've heard concerns about the far field model. We saw emails from city officials talking about how the results may have not looked good. And we heard about that like back in February. We had those presented to city council, and I still haven't heard anything from the city like on those models. And we saw emails from city staff, the director of water, talking about the results were concerning. And we only saw the model from a public information request instead of it being presented to the council when we knew they had the information. And then at the same time, we're talking about paying attorney fees for, I mean, you probably wouldn't have needed a criminal attorney if there was no evidence. And I was at that ethics hearing, and they said there was a valid case, there was enough evidence for there to be a hearing. And I don't know if they were the ones that recommended that the city make this change to pay for legal fees. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minster. Mary Dale Peterson.
To quote an op-ed by Isabella Raiza from 2018, for big businesses, especially the refining industries that move into the region, the people and natural resources of the coastal bend are a means to the end, and that end is profit. Raiza continues, because they are so large and rich, they have the capacity to shape what we know, how we think, and what we demand of them. Too many people, including our elected officials, limit their expectations of these giants for fear of them choosing to go elsewhere. To summarize, Corpus Christi is a sacrifice zone. The refineries now outside city limits enjoy being in the coastal bend while polluting the community and not sharing the responsibility of paying for goods, services, and resources the city provides. This corporate welfare starves coastal bend communities. IDAs are described as economic development incentives, but this simply is not true. The refineries aren't going anywhere, but it's time to annex industry. Vote no on the current agreement or at least table it. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, so I'm not a resident of Corpus Christi. I'm from New Orleans, but the majority of my family is from an area called Cancer Alley, which is an area of Louisiana where pollution is so great that cancer and similar diseases are exponentially more likely than in the rest of the country. So with that in mind, I'm speaking against any additional or any new industrial district agreements. At the very least, based on what the other comments have stated, I think that you should push this vote back until there's more information. Similar agreements are what led to the creation of Cancer Alley. Regardless of economic growth and regardless of job opportunities, a lot of the folks in Cancer Alley work in the industries that are giving them these illnesses, and they also have medical bills that they can't afford. Cancer Alley will always be Cancer Alley because it's been there for years and the pollution doesn't go away, regardless of, in the grand scheme of things, short-term economic development. Regardless of whether it's in Louisiana or Corpus Christi, economic
Thank you, Ms.
growth.
Kissy. Your time is up.
Good afternoon, elected community members and taxpayer-funded employees. Thank you for making it easier for candidates that are running against you all by putting things on the agenda today, like increasing small business fees, building permits, certificates of occupancy, food health permits, vendor permits, food handler certificates. There's a trend here that has been going on for 5 years. I believe that the community that I talk to is tired of the money grab. You have $757 million for a desal plant that the community cannot afford and does not want to pay for. You have now a $1.8 million budget that we've had zero population growth for, a little over 1% in 5 years, but the budget has gone from 980 some odd million to now $1.8 billion, and the community is not seeing it within our neighborhoods. You have IDAs that Mr. Weber has just clarified as another decision made in favor of industry. You guys keep using that $120 million number, divided by 15 years is only $8 million. That's only an additional $8 million from these companies that are making multi-billion dollars a year, and we're only increasing their tax debt to $8 million a year. We have a corrupt sitting council members that would like their attorney's fees to be paid for whenever they are questioned on their ethical behavior. We need to get to a point where we have elected representatives that are on the side of the community, that is going to save the taxpayers' money and make decisions in our favor as opposed to being against us. We get preached to about economic development, and here we are, 3 different items going after the small, locally owned business owners and increasing all the fees that they would need to, develop our community. We cannot understand what you guys are doing behind this dais. We do not understand. I'd like to continue to ask for the resignation of our city manager, because he not only continues to reach into the pockets of taxpayers, but nothing is getting accomplished in favor of the community. And I advise the community to vote no on the proposed sales tax increases, no to the bond, and no to any other money grab attempt.
Just kind of wanted to go over a couple of things that I saw in the CIP. I've been carrying around this book with me for about a month now. I was the lone dissenting vote on Planning Commission to the CIP, and I understand it's kind of difficult to, vote no based on a couple of key projects, but there are a few things that I want to highlight for you. And, I'd like to challenge staff to scrutinize a little bit more closely some of the projects within the proposed CIP. I've got about 20 things flagged in this book right here, but I've kind of condensed it to about 8 that are easy to digest. First one, Dilworth Park Pavilion, page 1. Some of the Morning, Mayor and Council. Michael Miller, 51 Camden Place. Just kind of wanted to go over a couple of things that I saw in the CIP. I've been carrying around this book with me for about a month now. I was the lone dissenting vote on Planning Commission to the CIP, and I understand it's kind of difficult to, vote no based on a couple of key projects, but there are a few things that I want to highlight for you. And, I'd like to challenge staff to scrutinize a little bit more closely some of the projects within the proposed CIP. I've got about 20 things flagged in this book right here, but I've kind of condensed it to about 8 that are easy to digest. First one, Dillwork Park Pavilion, page 104. It's $422,652. Just kind of flag that because it's like $470 a square foot for basically a patio cover. We're going to pay $209,390 on page 121 for the helicopter monument base at Sherrill Park for the design only. That seems extremely excessive for a concrete pedestal. City Hall exterior illumination, page 155, $742,590, and we're going to get certificate of obligation bonds for exterior colored lights on the building. The vehicle fleet wash on page 164, it's $256,787 for design only. That equates to $19,768 of retail quick quack car washes for city vehicles. I can't imagine what that would equate to for the actual construction. The solid waste complex on page 189, $51,562,500 to be paid with certificate of obligation bonds. This one was interesting. Animal care kennels design, page 152. This is design only, mind you. $1,271,373 to design some dog kennels. And I asked Camille Terrace about it during the Planning Commission meeting, and he said that that's actually an error. It's that they got bids, which I don't think that you're supposed to be able to get bids for design services, but that it actually came in at $1.8 million to design the dog kennels. Underground gas storage, page 273, $49,448,359. I understand that that's in an effort to hedge natural gas prices to avoid things like Ice Storm Uri, but there's a lot less expensive ways, quite frankly, free ways to hedge gas by doing gas contracts, long-term gas contracts. And then finally, the Inner Harbor desal plant, page 337, $221 million. I understand that we have to spend that money or we lose the SWIFT loan for that, but we don't have a permit yet, so that's kind of a pricey gamble at this point. Thanks.